Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the June Patreon. Today we will build something like this here, and if you wonder, this is PureRef 2.0, so it's like the second version. I can highly recommend it for like referencing mood boards, etc. So they now like included drawing and a lot of other really cool features in my opinion, which is pretty nice. Let's draw something here. Okay, what we'll do today, we will create those geometric things here, like maybe minerals, but more often like organic pieces. And I think they can really work well with Houdini 20.5. If you did not watched the keynote, please do that. I think there are some like amazing features for 20.5, and I want to create this geometry. And in the next month, I want to make a tutorial about the new solver, etc., with something like this geometry. Maybe I will do another R&D on geometries again, and we will build up again one from scratch. But I think now for this kind of video, I think those geometries are pretty cool, and you can get a lot of them pretty quickly with, of course, different seeds, etc. And we will create them. And yeah, without further talking here, let's get started. I also did other R&D, so we will look into that into next month. And there will finally, hopefully, maybe be a collaboration tutorial. And let me just plug that in. Okay, now we can get started. I will give you a quick rundown. And I think we will, today I think we will be longer in the lighting shading part, because I think like this geometry is pretty easy to create, so it's not that hard. But I think there are a lot of cool opportunities to then branch off. Maybe we can also do that. So I think we can branch off and do some extra R&D here and there, especially with those sexy lines here. I really like them. And yeah, so sorry, it's basically we will start with a couple of lines. So we can also do a R&D on that. So we can start with boxes, circles, simple one-dimensional lines, twisted objects. So that will basically determine the whole form, and the bounding box will also determine the whole form, and also, for example, where you like scatter the points, of course, will also affect the initial shape or like the outcome. And then we'll resample that, we will convert that back to basically polygons. We can, or we could, of course, when we branch off later, also use, for example, only the lines. Or we could also use only the points that we will, for example, scatter onto the lines, or we will convert them. So yeah, then we will convert the whole thing into VDB, and that will take a second because that's a pretty high-res VDB. And after the conversion, let me just, okay, that's fine. After the conversion, we will do like a poly reduce, but I will not do that here now. It will take a little bit longer. and an auto UV, and we will array or transfer back the curfew attribute we created previously. And yeah, I think we can get started for now. So let's just cancel that out and let's get started with the first little basic tree here. So we need like a box for now. So we need an initial size. And let's just go for a square size, and later we can then see how the initial shape, of course, will also determine the final output. So we will start with a box. Let's get a VDB from Polygon, so press tab, and then VDB from Polygon. Shift enter to like directly link the nodes here. And we will not use the surface VDB, we will use that later. But now we'll just use a density VDB and also basically a fog VDB. So we created now 1 million or roughly 1 million voxels. And now we can scatter basically points into here. And we will can copy stuff onto that. So let's just use 11 copies. And there's also another method. So there's, for example, the points from volume method. You could also use that, but I think in that case it's not that precise. So of course you could dial in the jitter seed, and then you can play around here till you get like a certain amount that you want. But I think point from volume, yeah, got other use cases, but it's okay, cool. Then we will have our little points here, and after that we want a random scale, so an attribute wrangle. Let's call it set scale. Whoops, set scale, and I will use a preset here, random point scale. You can just type that in here. I think now we did it a lot of times. And yeah, let's just use a seed, I don't know, 666. And a minimum and a max scale and an overall scale. Just dial in here a value. After that, what I want to do is to create a random orientation. So let's just copy a box onto that. And what I want to do with the box, I want to convert it to a line and displace it like a little bit, but just a little bit. Convert line. And then a displace or a mount node. Good. And yeah, just to get like a little bit of displacement. Let's resample that. Oops, not VDB, resample. To get like a fair amount of points, so not that much, or I think that should be fine. Let's just displace it like a little bit. Because when we like detach the lines, I think we will get like pretty cool, so not as much, so just like detach them like a little bit. We'll get cool results. What you also could do here, of course you could fuse it after it, and the lines will stay together. So you could do something like a fuse node and then that could be also cool. But I think what would be even cooler if when we get a curfew attribute onto here and get a fair amount of points. So let's go for a length of 0.025. And then you can already see my visualizer here. So I created a visualizer based on curfew, and let's just make that white to red. And I will make the background dark. And what we could do here, which I think is also pretty cool, let's just introduce like a VOP. And then after that, let's go for polyframe. And let's set our normals to not the tangent, to the bitangent. Oops. Click it to the bitangent here, and then just click orthogonal. So we will use that. And with the orthonormals, we can now pipe that into here, get a noise, anti-alias noise, for example. Then we will need to bind in the curve view. So we will basically import a curve view, and let's get a ramp here. Let's get also not a multiply constant. We will need just a multiply for that. Pipe that in here, make the ramp a spline ramp. And a parameter, so we will have an overall multiplier. So we can rename that, for example, overall mult. Oops. Overall mult. Pipe that in here. And then let's place down a displays along normal. That's the wrong one. Into position, from position, amount, position, multiply into scale. And then we can get a hill ramp here, and we can multiply that. And then we will, whoops, sorry. We will end up with something like that, which I think is pretty cool. So we can also use it like that. And then we can smooth it like a little bit out. Maybe let's go for 1. And we will, get this like little displaced cube here, which is pretty cool, I think. And then we can pipe that into here. Then we got our little cubes. And what I want to do, I want to place down a vector adjust. Vector attribute adjust vector, the one. Oh, and Houdini crashed. Oh, that's cool. Back. So Houdini crashed. I don't know why, but yeah, let's just make that again here. Place down the vector attribute adjust vector. Set that to n, so basically to the normal, and to set initial and then random. And then we can play, for example, with a min and max value here. We can play with a seed. And let's also play a little bit with the scale. And I want a little bit more scattered around here. So something like this. I like that. After that, we need to create a little volume velocity from curves tree. Just rearrange those. This will be an out node, so let's just call it out, maybe lines. I think that's fine. Okay, we're still recording. Then we will need a bounding box. So just place down a bounds here. And the lower padding, let's just go for 0.5 and then right click, copy parameter, right click, paste relative reference, paste reference, and so on. So now we've got the lower padding basically referenced to all parameters, and we can then scale them and they will reference the scale here accordingly, and it basically will get transferred. And we will always have the same scale for our bounding box. Then we will make a VDB out of it and pipe that into the velocity from curves. So VDB from polygons again. We could also copy the one from above. And let's go for 0.01. That's a little bit much. So 0.05 or 0.025 will do the job, I think. And then velocity from curves. Pipe the volume into the volume and the curves to the curves. And let's raise the resolution here a little bit. And then we will get something like this. The cool thing is what we could do, we could convert this this fog VDB or this volume VDB back to like geometry. Wait, oh, velocities. So we could do like volume. Whoops, where was it? Volume. Never mind, auch rausschneiden. Okay, after that, volume velocity, I think that looks cool. We can then place our scatter with the volume trail. So this is basically the whole thing. What you also can do, of course, you can use that for simulation. I think that would also be cool to advect particles with that. That's also like, of course, a normal or a good thing for like client motion design work to do. Advect stuff with volumes. Cool, now we have that. We need the volume trail. Pipe that in here, pipe that in here. Reverse the inputs. You can do that with Shift R if you, for example, like piped it in incorrectly. And then what we need to do, what I did here, is to like pump up the trail length a little bit. And then of course the points. So now I got like 5,000 points on my other setup. So we can pipe that up here to like also 5,000. And we will get something like this. After that, we can resample those lines again. Let's just enable the curve view visualizer and enable the curve view visualizer or the curve view attribute here on the resample node. Then we can resample that. And now we got a lot of good points to work with. So this will be our initial form. And then let's just pick like one line. So bind, not bind, blast. And I will blast, so basically I will delete, let's just pick a line here, this one. Delete non-selected, and we will have one line here. And what I want to do, I want to just use that quickly to get my VDB from particles running, because when you use the whole geometry, it's sometimes a little bit slow. And I think it's pretty convenient to like do it like this and see, okay, we got a good resolution going on, but of course we can go way higher here. So that's a cool thing. Let's go for like, I think I would go, yeah, I did something like the same here. And then we can disable that or bypass and we will get something like this. After that, I want to place down like a VDB reshape. I love the reshape node, so we can dilate it. Also play with the reshape nodes in the solver. I think that's also good, cool. So in that kind of solver, that's pretty cool because when you like place it in there, you can erode stuff, etc., or like, yeah, make it grow. Maybe a tutorial on that would also be cool, like a solver series. Okay, I dilated it now a little bit, and then I will erode it again, because sometimes you get pretty cool detail with that. Let's just dilate it like 2 times. No, not 21 times, holy shit. But let's see how that will look. Let's see, I think 21 is pretty... Okay, that looks weird. But yeah, I like weird shit. Okay, let's just do it 2 times and then erode it again. And after that, VDB smooth. So smooth SDF, what's it here? Let's place that down and we will smooth the whole thing a little bit out. And then we will convert it back to polygons and get rid of the point visualize. Cool, so we got something like that here. Let's just also get back to the light background, I think. And we can view it like a little bit better. And now the cool thing is when we like pipe that up, so like the size, the mesh size, like 1 to 1. Let's just reshape it. Of course, we will end up with a whole other geometry. So something like that. So it's now like more stretched. Of course, with our little deformed cube, we can get rid of the deformation and get a like a little bit more clinical, a little bit more repetitive, a little bit more, yeah, like artificial style, which I also like really like, which is pretty cool. In some cases it's pretty repetitive. That was the word I wanted to say, repetitive. So for example, like this here, and I really like those details. So I could also blast them out and remodel some of those, which I find pretty cool. Okay, let's try some other stuff because I wanted to do some extra R&D on this because this is like basically the whole setup. Let's just go and let's just transfer. It will transfer to from. And what I want to transfer is the curve view. That's basically it. And what I want to do is to blur it a little bit out. I think that's important. Just a little bit. Yeah. Okay, a little bit more. Let's go for a proximity blur and give it like 8 blur iterations, and that will do a good job. So this was like before. Wait, let me just do it like that. That was like before, and that is after. I think that's pretty good. Okay, cool. I like that look. Nice. And then of course we need auto UV. You can poly reduce it if you want, but let's just use auto UV. I used some marble textures for the final rendering, but I think we will go for like noises. I think that's also a good way to like get detail in there. And the auto UV, of course we don't need that. We could also like bash it like world position or like triplanar. But when you like want to deform it post sim, so if you want to like make a soft body out of the whole thing, and when you like then deform it, of course you want, or maybe you don't want it, but keep the textures, the noises, etc. placed on the UVs while deforming, bending the whole geometry. And that should be finished in a second. Flattening island. Okay, I think that will take a little bit too long now. Let's just cancel that. And you know it's there, you can use it. And the auto UV will usually do like a good job on geometries like this. Now it takes time to Cancel it. Oh, Houdini. So, I'm back. I don't know. I think I need to revert my drivers because I recently installed like a new NVIDIA driver, like from the studio drivers. And since then, I got crashes all the time, but also like not like rendering wise, but also like sub wise. So I need to revert that. But there was one thing in Octane um, that basically rely on a pretty new driver, and yeah, driver bullshit. Okay, let's just place a material here, and this will be Octane matte, and dive out. And I already got a little Octane setup here. Let's just copy that, delete that, get a standard material. And I think you know how to set up Octane. If not, I think there are plenty of videos on my Patreon or of course also a YouTube channel. If you want to have a look on something for free, so please look in that. And do yourself a favor, make a little Houdini file to get like a fast like preset file. I think that's cool, especially for client work. Or also, I think it's a huge help for portfolio work or personal projects. And I think with 20.5 there will be also like recipes, so maybe we can build our own Octane recipes and just slap that in there, and Octane is there, or Redshift, etc. So I think that would be pretty cool, but let's see. And I'm really excited to do like tutorials for all of you with like the new solvers. Okay, now I got a camera here, pretty standard. So 85 millimeters of focal length, aperture 36, decent resolution, and our little R&D thing here. So let's just try one thing. Let's go for points, because I think points would also look really cool. So we got the resample. Now let's use a scatter and get like, I don't know, 1 million. No, need more, 500,000. I think 500,000 sounds pretty cool and also looks good. So we can place a null here, out PTS for points. Now dive up a level, create a new geometry container. And let's call this geometry container here GeoPTS out. Best name, points R&D. Okay, then we will need to slap object parameters onto that. Go to the Octane tab, go to particles, render as sphere particles, and then we need to object merge our out. So basically this null here into here. And now we got our basically points referenced, or we brought them over from the other geometry container, and now we can render them. Okay, let's just go and see how that will look. I got a simple HDRI as a lighting setup. Oh my god. Holy moly. Okay, first of all, we need a material, of course. So let's just use the same material here. Get it onto here. And then what we need to do is to heavily dial down the global scale here. Yeah, something like that. Oh, that looks, I like that. It looks cool. Wait, let's just wait. What we also, of course, can do, if you, I think that looks cool because it's like a little bit random, and the points does not have exactly the same distance to each other because they're basically scattered. But what you also could do, just place down, whoops, not a character blend shape, an add node, pipe that in here, and then just delete geometry but keep the points. Get that in here. And now we will use the points from the resample, and we've got like the resample points. What we also can do is to dive in here, and let's just use like a metal. So that's a little bit more shiny. I think that looks pretty cool. Also with the depth of field. Dive back in the cam and let's get some cool angles here. Of course, focusing will be easy. That's cool. Yeah, we'll get something like that, which is pretty cool, I think. Nice. But now to the main geo. So yeah, we'll use the points, and you also can do, of course, use the lines. Lines here. Disable that, enable fur, and start the render. And now we got basically metallical lines. Those look also pretty cool. I think, of course, it's pretty abstract, but if you get it like in the right context, you could then like form a metal sheet out of it. I don't know, something like that. And then let's go back to here. And what I want to do is to go to Octane attribute and enable basically the attribute extraction, extract the curve view attribute. Let's go to our shader and let's just use the metal shader because, or no, let's just use the standard shader for now. We can also make a metal shader out of that. Okay, let's just use a float and then the float vertex attribute, pipe that into the base color, and the name will be curve view. So we will now basically extract our little attribute from the surface into the shader, and we can play around with the gradient here to then remap it to give it different values or colors, etc. Which is pretty cool. And of course I will stay in a more monochromatic space. So let's just remap that. This, I think. And then we will need a few noises. And what I want to do, what I also did on the style frames, I converted it a little bit to like glass. And what I did, I piped the color from the curve view into the transmission. And I think what we need to do is to like reload the render here. We can also use like a specular material. Yeah, let's just use a specular. Specular material. Oh, transmission color. I fucked up, but now it's looking right. Let's just use that. Pipe it into the transmission. And now what we can do, we can place down a diffuse material. Material diffuse, and we can get a noise. So for example, I really like the Cinema 4D noises, so like Luca noise, etc. So let's just get that. And what I want to do, projection. Let's just go for like object space. Or let's just go for world space. And reload it quickly. Whoops. And then wait, that's the wrong one. Let's go for triplanar. Not the Quixel triplanar, the normal triplanar. Where is it? Projection. There is it. Triplanar. Let's just pipe that in here. and a scale. Transform the scale. Maybe this will get better one day. Because it's always like a bunch of a few nodes, and that takes time, and it will add up, especially like in commercial or in client work. Type that into here, and I will use it as a bump, but as you can see, get it a little bigger. That's a little bit like too high, so let's just get a focus here. Dive into here. I like that you can just like dive into the render. And what we can do, like pipe it up a little bit, so 0.005. I think that should be cool. And zoom out again. I think that will work much nicer. And the scale, I think the scale is a little bit too big. So what we can do, we can scale it again. Because I think something like that would be too fine. And we can go for like this, and let's pipe up the octaves a little bit. And we could also use like the gradient to play with the roughness. Let's like remap that thing. I think that looks pretty cool. Let's just zoom out and refocus here. Oh, I like that. Okay, now why not introduce a little bit of color? Let's make a copy of that. Yeah, that looks cool. Maybe desaturate it like a little bit and make go for like a more complementary color. Let's just go here, complementary, and let's pick the color here. Whoops. And bring back that a little. I think that looks pretty cool. And now, of course, what you also can play with, first lighting, sure, but let's introduce like a little bit of bokeh. Give me that juicy bokeh. It's cool. And then I think another thing what would certainly help to play around with is like a more of a metallic look. And then maybe play, of course, that's maybe a little bit out of trend, like the thin film. Of course, it can add to your renders, and I think it's cool. And of course, it's in some cases realistic, but yeah, you can play around with that. Play with the edge tint. I think edge tint is pretty underrated. I think you can get like really cool looks out of that, especially when you then go into your specular and get an RGB color. And then, for example, get a bluish tone and then heavily like desaturate it. And then you get those little bits here of color. I think that sometimes look pretty cool. Okay. I think that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, the next tutorial will then follow up with, I hope, Houdini 20.5 and a collaboration. So maybe two tutorials next month, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.